morning and welcome everyone. We will start in probably a couple more minutes. So please feel free to, just enjoy some of the soothing music and take a look at all the facilitators and speakers we are going to have for today. Thank you so much. We'll start shortly. Everyone, and welcome. My name is Lin Zhou. I'm one of the co-chairs for the Asian Pacific Islanders Coalition South Puget Sound chapter. I'm very, very happy to have the opportunity to have so many of our co-sponsors this time to join us to sponsor this leadership development conference. And we are truly, truly appreciative for so many of our speakers and facilitators who, out of their very busy schedules, to join us for this event. And let me go ahead and introduce you a little bit about today's program. Social change can begin with self-examination and follow up with exchanges, dialogues, civic engagement, and actions to cultivate a harmonious community. We continue our commitment to this quest by inviting the community to come together for a morning of skill building and conversation to better understand and discuss what makes good leaders and how we can effect social change with emerging leaders and existing leaders. The goal of this conference is to help develop and empower existing and emerging community leaders and activists by providing the tools they may need to become the best leaders they can be. We also like to encourage networking and sharing of our own communities' unique lived experiences and form collaboration with each other. Again, welcome to our leadership conference. APIC South Puget Sound is a coalition of different organizations that are sharing this commitment of sharing our community resources, empower our community members to become better. So we hope to use this opportunity to continue that work, but also introduce all of you to each other. And because of the timing we have, we are also hoping to use this opportunity to talk about how this year has been. And so all the leaders are going to kind of share what they have from their own perspectives and in their own chosen career paths to share their best experiences and knowledge. And today we are very, very happy to have the opportunity to first introduce you to our two keynote speakers. Our first keynote speaker is Dr. Chege, and official name, of course, is Dr. Karen Johnson. Dr. Chege currently serves as the director for the Washington State Office of Equity. She was the Equity and Inclusion Administrator for the Washington State Department of Corrections prior to the current appointment. She also represented the DOC on the statewide Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Council before. Her career includes working for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the Equal Employment Office, Program Manager to Chief Administrative Office of the James Van Zandt VA Medical Center. And she has also served as the director for Tri-Love Ministry in Seattle and many, many other positions. She has now, of course, transitioned to more local and state government work. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Dr. Chege. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lynn, and members of the Asian Pacific Islanders Coalition of South Puget Sound for inviting me to join you today to share my ideas and joining this conversation, very timely conversation, Lynn, about what makes a good leader and how a good leader makes an organization strong and running well. I am coming to you this morning from what is now known as Thurston County, which has been the recorded homelands of the indigenous people for thousands of years. And it is a pleasure to be with you. Dr. Lin Zhou, it's my pleasure to share this space with you today, and I look forward to hearing your wisdom. Co-sponsors Window Seat Media, Timberland Regional Library, Korean Multicultural Family Association, and Community Foundation of South Puget Sound. Many, 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 many thanks for your generous support. I'm not going to be with you long today, but when Lynn asked me to join you today for this conversation, I just had to make the time, because if ever there's a time that we need leadership to affect social change and to do great work in rebuilding society, now's the time. So good morning, buenos dias, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'd like to take a few minutes today just to speak briefly about leadership excellence and inside-out approach. But before I begin my journey, I'd like to hear from you. So I'm going to ask everyone to please unmute yourselves, and at the count of 3, shout out your answer to the question, are leaders born or made?
Made.
Made.
1, 2, 3.
Oh.
They're made.
Oh.
Born. Made. Born.
Oh.
Both.
Made.
Made.
Both.
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 Oh.
Oh my.
All right, now that you're awake and warmed up, that's great. Some said both, some said made, some said born. Well, let's just see what happens. So for question 2, I want to do a waterfall chat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you the next question, and I'm going to give you a few seconds, minutes to think about your answer. And then I'm going to ask everyone to please type your responses into the chat at my signal, the count of 3. Is everybody ready? Here's the second question. What is the difference between leadership and management? What's the difference between leading and managing? So I want to give everybody an equal chance to engage. So take a minute or two to think about your responses. And when you're ready, just please wait for me to give my signal before typing in the chat. What's the difference between leading and management? The difference between a leader or a manager? All right, so if you still need a few more seconds, please say, wait for me. Okay, hearing none, on the count of 3, please type your responses into the chat. 1, 2, 3. Let the water fall. Okay. Seeing some good things. Compassion and commitment is leadership. Leaders inspire through engagement. Leaders inspired, engage, recognize. Managers process. Management supervises others. I'm reading those in the chat. Manager is a position. Leader is not. Leaders concern themselves. Anyone can be a leader. Okay. Many of your responses in the chat seem to parallel this slide for leadership qualities versus management qualities. And another way of thinking about the difference between a manager and a leader, when I think about the difference between a manager and a leader is someone who is followed by others. Joel Barker said, if you think you're a leader and no one is following you, you're walking, you're just taking a walk, you're not leading. Leaders are followed by others versus management, getting the work accomplished. And before I share my ideas this morning about what makes a good leader and how a good leader can really make an organization strong and keep it running, I must first give a shout out to my parents, my grandparents, my Sunday school teacher, Ms. Chambers, my high school student council and student government advisors, Ms. Sheehan and Mr. Grims, my first manager at Burger King, what was his name? Rick, Ed Gamache, Al Zamberlin, Dr. Gerber, Marlene McDaniel, and David Watley for helping me to become the leader that I am today. I also have to give a huge, huge shout out to Kuzes and Posner for teaching me many of the leadership principles that I still practice today. And if you haven't had a chance to get a copy of this book, I would highly, highly commend it to you. 5 simple characteristics of a leader that when you do these things, it's just amazing of just the energy that you create within yourself and within your team. And when I talk to managers, I get the feeling that they're important. Yet when I talk to leaders, I get the feeling that I am important. And a little truth telling here, I didn't want to be a leader. I was very happy doing excellent work as an independent contributor. So when Mr. Goss, the head of the VA Medical Center located in Hampton, Virginia, when he called me into his office in the 1980s to ask me the question I asked you earlier, what's the difference between management and leadership? What's the difference between a manager and a leader? And then told me that he had nominated me for the management development program. And in the Department of Veterans Affairs, if you ever want to be the head of a VA medical center, one of the first steps in your professional development career was to go to this management development program. So when he told me I was nominated, I was less than thrilled. And while I was in that program, Billy Hightower, never forget him, one of the facilitators, he told us that class, or my cohort, that if our passion was to own a flower shop, that what we should really do was resign and go do that. And I'll never forget, in that first week, we took every psychological test, battery, assessment that one can think of. We had a conversation with a psychiatrist who told us about ourselves. And so at that time, I really wanted to teach graduate students. I wanted to publish great books and write great articles. So I very nicely turned in my letter of resignation when I returned to work after the training session. Mr. Goss very politely tore it up and told me to stay the course. So I set out to learn about management, leadership, and what makes effective teams. And I discovered a few things very quickly. The great leaders and great teams, they're clear on team goals and they're committed to them. Otherwise, if you don't have clear goals, you're just a group of people who are just getting together having a good time. Good leaders and teams are clear on team goals and they're committed to them. They feel ownership for problems rather than blaming them on others. They share ideas, listen to, they respect each other. They talk more about we than I and me. They make decisions based on facts. They play a variety of roles, like they may serve as a leader, a coach, or a teacher. And in the course of this, I discovered that I was way off the mark, very egocentric. I wasn't trying to think about we, it was all about me. Wasn't trying to work with other people to get my work accomplished, I want to do that myself. I was so far off the mark, it wasn't funny. And I realized quickly that these leaders were not going to let me out of preparing myself to be a leader to head a VA hospital one day so I could serve our nation's veterans and make sure they had quality care. If we're really going to have great teams that get results, then that required me to first build myself from within. And here are three things that I'd just like to share with you briefly this morning that I learned to be true on this lifelong journey that I offer for your consideration this morning. First of all, I had to unmask myself and embrace my authentic self. So I had to spend some time getting to know who I was. And then to be unapologetically me. I couldn't lead like Mr. Goss. I couldn't be anyone other than myself. And in this process of being an excellent leader to get good results in an organization continually, that required extreme self-care. Unmask myself and embrace my authentic self. I ask you today at the sound of my voice, who are you? Because who we are, what we hold dear, what upsets us, what underlies our decisions, they're all connected to our values. And it took me a while to learn that, and it was hard because I wasn't quite sure who I was or what I valued. And so I felt like I was a caterpillar in a cocoon in this process of transformation, metamorphosis into a butterfly. And what I realized is that our values really reflect what's important to us. So first, I would offer as an idea for what makes a good leader, lead on values. And after this session, I invite you to think about and write down your non-negotiable values, your core values, those things that you're willing to die for, as opposed to compromising them. The next thing I know to be true from my lived experience was to be unapologetically me. What do I mean by that? Well, what was my personal mission? And for leaders to have a personal mission, I learned that was critical. Why am I here? And I learned quickly that I wasn't there for me. I was there for the team that was entrusted to my care to make sure that we provided the best quality care we could to veterans each and every time. I also, in that process, had to discover, well, what is my personal vision? What is it that I hope to become? And one thing that I did as a part of the management development program, we were all asked to write our obituaries, our professional obituaries, to write what we wanted people to say about us after we completed our time on planet Earth, and use that to guide our leadership philosophy. Jonathan Bowman said that a leader without a vision is like a piano player without a piano, or a kite without a wind. So I learned to lead on mission and vision. Back then, it was a predominantly white male environment, Department of Veterans Affairs, last century. And you could count the number of Black leaders on one hand. There were no women directors of VA medical centers at the time. Many of the leaders in my sphere were divorced because their work was their marriage. They were married to their work and worked extremely hard hours. We all did. I did as well. And through that process, I learned if I was going to be a great leader and have a great team who provided excellent care to veterans, we got great results doing that, I had to engage in extreme self-care. And Eleanor Brown said, she said, when you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. And I remember when Lynn mentioned in the bio, the introduction, that I worked at the James E. Van Zandt VA Medical Hospital in Altoona, Pennsylvania. I was what you would now call their COO. And because I had a leader who never was given an opportunity, he also allowed me to do his job as well. So I was also CEO. So did external and internal relations. And I had surgery that year during that tenure in Altoona. And I had a cat, and I was home recovering, and I noticed that my cat spent all day stretched out in the windowsill. And I said, you know what? I'm not a care in the world, just enjoying life. And I said, I need to learn the lesson from my cat. And in my office in the James E. Van Zandt VA Medical Center, I had a ledge, just like I had built a ledge for my cat. And I remember saying to my boss, Jerry, when I went back to work after I recovered from surgery, Jerry, if you walk into my office, I'm stretched out on the ledge, just don't trip, I'm good. I'm just applying a lesson that I learned from my cat. And while it might sound kind of funny, I have to say that that lesson about learning how to relax as a leader was critical, because it kept me in the space and the place that I needed to be present for my managers. Because it is true, if it's not good with the leader, it's not going to go well with the people. How we show up in the space affects the dynamics of the team. So some might ask, well, Dr. J, what are some of the leadership lessons that you learned along the way? Well, I'm so glad you asked. I learned a few. So this is what I have learned to be true. That leadership is really about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. Or it's been said this way, you might have heard it said this way. The mark of a good leader is not what happens when they're present. The mark of a great leader or good leader is what happens when they're absent. Anyone would expect the team to perform while you're there, but great leaders ensure that their teams excel when they're not there. Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook, said that. I learned that leaders inspire people to want to do something. Managers hold people accountable for doing something. And Steve Jobs said, if you want to make everybody happy, then don't be a leader, go sell ice cream. Because leadership is not about making everyone happy. It's about creating that environment where everyone, no matter what their earth suit, no matter what they look like, who they love, what their religions, they're able-bodied or not. It's about making sure that you create that environment where everyone at work can bring their A game each and every day and not worried about being stabbed in the back, thrown under the bus, or left out of the loop. And nor will they expect that from you, so that you can come together and be focused on the mission and be the best team ever, delivering superior service each and every time to whomever your customers are. Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. And I also learned to be true, be the kind of leader that you would follow. Clearly, I was navigating this space in a female body, and I learned along the way as a woman leading in what was then a predominantly male, largely white male world. I learned the importance of reframing my internal dialogue to maximize positive organizational outcomes. So I had to replace thoughts like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not worthy. Oh, I've got to be perfect. I can't make a mistake. Oh, I'm not good enough. I definitely, nobody loves me. Nobody likes me. I had to get rid of all of that negative internal dialogue, or simply state it, what I learned to be true as a leader is what I say about me is more important than what you say about me. Because as Lisa Hayes said, be careful how you're talking to yourself because you are listening. And Sheryl Sandberg, who wrote Lean In, she said, I want every little girl who's told she's bossy to be told instead that she has leadership skills. And certainly, you know, Dad said, he used to tell me, you're just like your grandmother. You're gonna make a great supervisor one day. You're bossy. Well, actually, it wasn't that. It was just, we were leadership, demonstrated leadership skills as a little girl. Because one of the most important of all personal leadership skills is self-awareness. So to yourself, be true. As someone wrote in the chat, who was this? Robin Sharner said, leadership is not a title, it's a behavior, so live it. And if people are doubting how far you can go so far that you can't hear them anymore. So Michelle Ruiz said. So in conclusion, lead from within. Why? Because you cannot build a great team that gets results without you. So unmask and embrace yourself, your authentic self. Be unapologetically you, because no one on the planet can beat you being you. Engage in extreme self-care, because if you don't, how are you going to even be present to lead anyone? Live out your core values, your personal mission, your personal vision statement. Mine is, I am real, relevant, and relational. I love large, right? I bring hope. I help other people excel. I am a gift to the world. Engage in positive self-talk to maximize positive organizational results. And finally, I leave you with a gift that I recently received from the Hopi Nation of Olympia, Arizona, found on page 144 of the book entitled Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion: Strategies for Facilitating Conversations on Race. It's written by Dr. Caprice Hollins and Ilse Goven. So the message from the Hopi Nation is entitled, This is the Hour. You have been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in the right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for the leader. This could be a good time. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and that they will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, and keep our eyes open and our heads above the water. See who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. So gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. And all that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Ashe and Shalom.
Thank you so much, Dr. J. So inspiring. So now, if I may, I'd like to go ahead and introduce you to our next keynote speaker. And the next keynote speaker is Dr. Lin Zhou. Dr. Lin Zhou is the president and CEO of Base Technical College. She is an amazing leader, skilled in management, organizational development, training, adult education, and curriculum development. She has a very strong business development professional background with a certificate focused in the Institute for Educational Management from Harvard University. Prior to working for Base, Dr. Zhou worked as the Associate Dean of Extended Learning for Lake Washington Institute of Technology for 11 years. She received her doctorate degree from Oregon State University in the Community College Leadership Program. She is a first-generation immigrant from China. So it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce you to Dr. Zhou. Thanks.
Thank you, Lin. I'm still thinking and enjoying Dr. Johnson's remarks this morning. And I'm like, oh, how am I going to follow her? Maybe I should just say, well, I have unstable internet. I have to drop my line, because only thing I'm going to share with you, I don't think I can compare to what Dr. Johnson shared with us this morning. So thank you, Dr. Johnson. That's really inspirational. Thank you. Well, when Lin reached out to me about this opportunity, I was very excited first, because I always want to look for new friends and connect with, or different group of people. But then I was like, what I'm going to share? And she told me, just share your own story. So that's what I'm going to do. So like I said, please do not compare my story, because now I'm thinking, well, I don't feel I can really do this. But let's see. Where is my PowerPoint? So what I like to share with you is really my journey as an ESL student, and then today as a college president. So what I decided to do is to have this timeline to let you know how much a person can learn and how many opportunities a person can grab, and what we can do to be a better ourselves. So back in December 26, 1998, my husband and I arrived in San Francisco International Airport. My parents-in-law, they applied the green card for us, and they lived in San Francisco at the time. Before we come to this country, my husband was a software developer working for Microsoft China, then Compaq. And then I worked for a big computer company in Beijing as a product manager. I wanted to be very honest with you. I didn't even think I would have an opportunity to come to the US. I didn't know my husband's parents were in the US for many years. I thought it's only two of us in Beijing, we would have a good life there. But when this opportunity come to me, I grabbed it. So I come to this country with my husband. The problem I immediately found out was I couldn't speak any English. I wasn't able to understand anything when people talked with me. Although in China, I learned English, it's only in writing, in reading. So when people come to me say hi, I was not able to say hi back. And I'm a very talkative person. So that was just killing me. So I decided to go take ESL class. And I started my fall quarter at Lake Washington in Kirkland. And after a quarter, an advisor come to me saying, Lin, have you thought about taking a program? I wasn't sure at the time, but my husband said, why don't you take a computer program? I can help you with your homework. Because of that offer, I said, sure. But very soon I found out he lied to me because he wants to teach me. He didn't want to just help me with my homework. So I remember it was very, very hard for me to start a program just after 1 quarter of ESL class. I was not able to understand anything my instructors talking in the classroom. I was not able to talk with my classmates. And yes, many times I thought maybe I should just quit. Why I'm struggling, why I'm doing this? Maybe I should just go back to China. But then I keep telling myself, well, maybe I should give myself another week. And that's what my instructor told me, Lin, just keep trying. So that's what I did. So I was able to complete my first quarter, then second quarter, then an associate degree with a 4.0. So I was very, very happy. So after that, I thought, wow, I was able to do something. And at the time, I was hired at the college right after I graduated from the associate degree as a technical aide for our computer program. So now I started working at the college, but my English was still not very good. So I felt I need to continue to work on my English, but what's the best way? I have to go back to school because I need to have that pressure to write my homework, to talk to my classmates. So I started my MBA program back in 2004. After 2-3 years, I started working at Lake Washington. I love project management, and I was hoping to go back to the business world after I completed my MBA program. But right after I received my MBA, the college had an opening. So I was hired as a manager for our branch campus. Then I just got more programs under me. But my mind was still going back to the business world. I really want to work for Microsoft or Amazon. Then I got another promotion, like in a year or so. But after I got the promotion as the associate dean, I was thinking about, do I want to stay in higher education, or should I continue to trying to move back to business? Here is the change, here is the turning point. After I become associate dean, I had the opportunity to work with the students closely. And I was told, Lin, you really helped me. Look what I have got so far. And that was the moment I felt, wow, I'm a person, I couldn't speak good English, but someone who come to me saying I was able to tell them, that fulfillment really made me believe education is calling me. So that's why I decided I wanted to stay in higher education. So I started my PhD. And then more opportunity come up. I come to base as a dean of instruction. And it's like a firefighter experience over the last 8 years since I come to base. I got more promotions. I become executive dean and then vice president of student services. Then 3 years ago, I become college president. You know, for my whole life in this country, I only worked for 2 institutions, 2 amazing institutions. I always consider the first college, Lake Washington, really gave me the opportunity to reborn as a new person. But at Base Technical College, I grew up as a leader. So when I think about what I learned from my last 20 years from ESL student to a college president, you know, there is nothing new to you because Dr. Johnson just shared with us very similar, you know, concept here. So I just want to share the same thing with you here because those are the principles really supported me and helped me. I learned we have to have effective communications. When we talk about the communications, we always talk about, yeah, we need to talk. We need to have meetings. To me, effective communications really means first you have to be a good listener. You don't just keep interrupting because you're passionate about the topic and you know you have the fact, you know you have a better idea. You want to let others talk. You want to hear from others. But then also you have to have very clear expectation. You know, when I was a dean, when I was a VP, or now as a president, I always keep telling me, if I'm telling people something, I need to making sure they really understand. And I want to double check so they don't just grab a part of the information, then come back with an outcome I'm not happy with. If I don't give clear message, clear directions, I cannot expect good outcomes. And the third thing, this is really important to me, which is timely response and follow-up. Often we have so many things we have to handle every single day. And then we forget about there are some tasks we need to complete. There are timelines we need to follow through. And I always think about if my staff send me an email, I need to remember to always get back to them. I don't want them to make assumptions, Lin ignoring me. I'm not that important. I sent this email to the president. I never get back from her. So for me, timely response and follow-up always plays important role. And you know, consistent is another thing I always believe. If I handle one project in one way and handle other process differently, I will confuse the people I work with. I want people to know when we talk about one process, we always try to follow that. Of course, there are flexibilities when situation changes, when new evidence show up, but keep consistency, be consistent. And as a leader, I learned there are so many changes in our organization, and there are just so many dynamics we have to control. And how we can stay on top of those changes, and how are we going to be able to lead people with changes. Some of you may know when I become the college president, it was not pleasant in the at our college. Sorry, I forgot to you do handle this way. I have not done PowerPoint for a long time. So when I become college president, there were some negative media coverage about our college. So I have a lot of people ask me, Lin, do you really want to become a college president at Bates? And I told them, yes, absolutely. I want to be the one can take everybody under the same vision, which is serve our students. But right after I become college president, there are several things happened. The next month, there was a drug addictor. He took one of our big semi truck from our campus and drove to JBLM, and it was on news. 2 months later, I was told we had $1.8 million to cut for that year's budget. And I worked with our unions, and with the college, we sent out a survey, asked the college's feedback, what areas we need to look into to make us more effective, what kind of programs we need to start to, evaluate in terms of the enrollment, in terms of the future employment opportunities for the graduates. There are any changes we need to make for our current process. So we handled that budget cut very well. And we were able to improve our enrollment the next year. This was in 2019, the springtime. So I was so excited. My campus was so excited. We were like, yes, we're able to do a great job because we were able to overcome the budget cut, the negative social media on us. Well, in July 2019, we had a cyber attack. The cyber attack impacted the entire campuses. We have 3 campuses. We lost emails, we lost network, we lost all of the documents we saved on our servers. I had a quick meeting with the campus in person, and I told everybody, this is just one more thing we need to handle. But here is the opportunity. From now on, we are going to start rebuild our server. We are able to reestablish, redevelop the policies that have not been reviewed for years. And we will be strong again. So again, that's another opportunity we did. And we handled the cyber attack. Yes, I was asked by attorneys saying if I wanted to negotiate with some guy, I don't know who they are, we probably can get our files back. You know my answer? I said, no, I do not negotiate. If they want to take our files away, they can, but I'm not going to give any money. So we didn't, and I'm glad we didn't. Yes, we lost some files, but we were able to recover most of them. But by having this big incident, many of us were very, very frustrated. And like Dr. Johnson mentioned, I had the doubt. I was like, why on me? Why for Bates? But as the leader, I know I have to be strong. And honestly, yes, I had that moment, but most of the time I was like, yeah, this is an opportunity. We will just continue to rebuild our college. And that's what we did. But after the cyber attack that was in 2019, by winter time, like January, February, in 2020, our college felt, well, we already starting building up our website, have our servers rebuilt. Now we can just move forward. Then we have pandemic. So anyway, when we talk about the changes is not only about cultural change, it's also about those incidents, about those the things you never planned. So as the leader, we need to stay calm. We need to identify what's the problem, what are the potential solutions, and how can we move forward. And there's still mainly in politics. There's still people, they may want to cover their own department and not to communicate with others. They want to keep that silos. As a leader, how are we going to work with everyone to making sure everyone, like I always mention at my college, we always have to think what's the best for the students. Before we make any decision, before we evaluate, establish or develop a new policy, we need to always think what kind of impact this policy or this process will make on our students. If there is a negative impact, we need to reevaluate. And we also always need to use DEI lens to improve our team performance. It is okay to know everybody may have a different story, have a different perspective. The way we need to help each other is, I always believe we have to understand or try to understand each other before we make assumptions, before we tell them what you just shared is wrong. You should do this way. No, we should listen to their story first. And from there, find ways to help or to work to learn together. Leading by example is another thing. And I have been really thinking about self-care that Dr. Johnson talked about. And I was laughing when she mentioned the married to work. And I almost want to say, yes, I married to two people. One is my work, one is my husband. And you heard me saying work first. And that's something I have been working on because I always value my responsibility and I hold myself very, very high standard. But I believe as a leader, if I do not lead by example, I can't ask my staff, I can't ask my faculty to do a good job. I have to do a good job first. But I also believe lead by care is important. What I like to do on campus is walk around the campus, just go to a classroom, say hi to faculty, say hi to students, maybe just 5-10 minutes, then go to another classroom. I try not to ask people come to my office for meetings. I'm thinking about if I got a call from the executive assistant of the president saying the president wants to see you at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, I would start to think why the president wants to talk with me, what I have done wrong. So for me, I wanted to go to them. I wanted to talk with them. And sorry. And we always need to realize there are bias. I have a bias. I come from a different culture. I come here when I was 30. I already had my own beliefs, my own value, and all the system has been built in my own body. But what a leader needs to know is, it is okay. It's really about how are you going to overcome your bias. So, I again realize and accept everyone has a bias. That is very important. Being a good leader, I have been very, very happy to have a very supportive system for me. We all have professional mentors, at our work, from our network, and the friends and the families. I always mention my husband because he is my biggest fan and he is the one always there for me. My parents, although most of the time they just worry about me because they do not speak English. They never worked in the US, but I know if I need comfort, if I need to talk, they're there for me. And you know, when we talk about mentors, when we talk about friends, families, I think it's also we have to be a little intentional to create, grow, and use our social networks. Having 500 connections on LinkedIn may not really mean anything. How many of you really remember all the contact you have on LinkedIn? I don't. But what I always like to do is I like to keep maybe monthly check or quarterly check or coffee with a small group of the people so we can share stories or share our challenges and learn from each other, or create that trust, have that trust relationship with your mentors. And Dr. Johnson, I just want to say I like to have that relationship with you because you just inspired me so much. And I want to go back to education works because I always believe, to me personally, this 2-year technical college or the community and the technical college in the United States, or let's say in Washington State, really helped me. Because without this system, I wouldn't be the president today. And with this system, I become a lifelong learner. I'm learning something every single day, like what I learned today. And education really prepared me for more opportunities when they come to me, when they are presented to me, I was able to grab it. And really, the more I learn, the more problem solving skills I have gained. And the more I learn, I become more confident in myself. I remember many years, I mean, even sometimes today, when I'm in a big group setting, when I believe I get it, I think I have the right answer, but if a native English as their native language saying something different, I always doubt myself because English is not my first language. I always first thinking, well, I must be wrong because I may just confused by the question. But sometimes, or most of the time, I was right. So build that confidence in myself or in yourself is so essential, so important, so critical. So that is my journey as a student to a college president. I hope by sharing my story, you are able to also learn something, and you can tell yourself, if Lin can do it, I can do it. And I truly believe if I can do it, everyone can do it. So that is my story. And I'd like to offer my contact. So if you have any questions, if you want to learn more about colleges, which I am in, or if you have any friends and family members are looking for programs, I'm here too. So I'm also taking this opportunity to recruit students for my college. Thank you very much.